Hi everyone, it's Bitcoin from the Big Chubowski. People have been getting pretty frustrated with the Executor's buffs, especially since it eats into your arena income if you can't beat it. And meanwhile, CG is trying to get people to even spend crystals on Conquest under some lame excuse that a few people completed too fast. And adding on to that, we have the most expensive Galactic Legend yet coming out. And you've got yourself a pretty unhappy player base, but an extra beach house for the shareholders, so there's that. Spreadsheet people at CG. Right, this was an Executor counter video. The goal of this video is to show you what I've figured out so far, so that hopefully others can build and improve upon it. So if you follow this channel, you know that I'm no fleet guru or anything. I have no specific interests in fleets. I'm not Bit Dynasty, though I could give you my best impression of hello there, my fellow holotable heroes. Anyways, I was doing some testing with the Finalizer against Executor with Xanadu Blood and quickly realized that in the opener you have a 1 in 3 chance of immediately losing if they target the Silencer. And if they pick off Shuttle first, it also becomes a much more difficult fight to win, though I managed to pull it off once. Now that gave me the idea to use a mixed Finalizer fleet instead, and after a lot of testing I got to about 70 to 75% win rate under the right conditions against the starting lineup with Xanadu Blood. Now any other starting lineups are not too difficult to beat. YouTube is full with counters against IG2000 and Slave 1, so I won't even bother covering them here. Now do note that this counter only works up to 5-star Executor right now if you didn't catch that part in the title, so against anything more I just haven't been able to crack it. Maybe you can. Now I wasn't sure if I wanted to share this counter at first. I don't expect CG to nerf it or anything because of its limitations, but I'm a territory war officer in a guild that's pretty big on territory wars. We've gotten top 3 several times, so we could just keep this to ourselves and help us win by doing so, but there do need to be opponents left to beat in the game who enjoy playing this game, and that's seriously going in the wrong direction with what CG has been doing. So I'm not saying this territory war stuff to brag, but I just want to give people a bit of hope with the counter maybe, and potentially recruit great players who are on top of the meta and love PvP. So I'll first explain to you the lineup that I'm using, then walk through a fight of how the counter works, and then explain some of the limitations that I found through additional video material. Now I have not been able to work around some of those limitations yet. Hopefully others can pick up from there to try to figure it out, because by the time this video is up, my weekend is pretty much over and I just don't have the time to keep diving into this. Now the fleet I'm using is very accessible with low gear levels and thus usable for Grand Arena and Territory Wars. I would not recommend it for Grand Arena because if you lose, then it's kind of likely that you don't kill any ships, which is a big issue. If it's your best option though, then go ahead, like what have you got to lose, I suppose. I'm using the Finalizer with Silencer, Shuttle and Sunfac in the starting lineup, as you may have been able to see. Now while Sunfac is taken from your Malevolence fleet, that fleet could still do some work without him. The reinforcements are all tools to help you deal with various situations that can happen later in the fight, and some of them can thus be replaced. Now the first reinforcement is Biggs, and he needs to have his reinforcement ability maxed to make him taunt when he comes in. The target lock it makes him land cannot be resisted, so he will always taunt. Now if you don't have Executor, you could replace Biggs with Houndstooth here for a more durable tank, but as an Executor owner I just assumed that was not going to be an option, because I can't give up my own Houndstooth to be able to counter an Executor fleet. It just doesn't make sense. I also like that Biggs can call an assist with his special, which is sometimes the Silencer who can then stun, which makes the fight a bit easier. Now any other tanks don't add this kind of value, so for me Biggs is definitely the best choice. The second reinforcement is the First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter, for its assist call as well and the First Order synergy, though it typically comes later into the fight. The third reinforcement that I've listed is Ebon Hawk to apply buff immunity. Wedge could be used here instead, but I like Ebon Hawk's double basic as well that feeds Turn Meter, and the dispel that it has, so it's got a couple tools that are handy at the same time. And the final reinforcement is Cassian. Now my pilots are very low gear as you can see here, but he can be used to cleanse and stealth the Silencer if it is debuffed, which can save you, or it can call an assist after his reinforcement ability has dispelled some buffs. Now I could also see a reinforcement like Spy work to get around taunt, but I didn't bother testing it too much. And of course there would be an RNG factor of who spy marks there. So yeah, maybe that's something worth looking into. Now let's get into the battle to show you how it works and explain a little bit around that. Some of what you'll see will feel counterintuitive, but I can show you testing footage of exactly what happens when you try to do the intuitive thing. So the silencer goes first, and the only option you have here is to do a basic on Houndstooth to ensure it doesn't gain turn meter if you would hit the Razorcrest. Now the Finalizer goes second due to the 30 added speed from having 2 first order ships in the starting lineup, and it puts Hunted on Houndstooth so that for the rest of the fight it doesn't gain turn meter when you attack other ships. Now the Shuttle ability blocks Razorcrest, which will always land, that's great, and it also has a 70% chance to remove 30% turn meter. It's great if that part lands, but it's not required, so don't worry about that too much. I have also done some tests where I put this ability block on Houndstooth and try to do the stun on Razorcrest, but then Xanadu Blood will call the Houndstooth to assist, which cleanses it, and then you're getting nowhere because it puts his taunt up. So next up, Xanadu Blood or Razorcrest moves, which depends if that turn meter removal landed or not, but usually it will be Xanadu Blood. And because either of those ships are buffed, it doesn't matter which one goes, Sunfac will taunt, and he will take the hit and the mark from Razorcrest's basic, which is what you want. Because now you've got a debuffed ship, and that basically becomes a magnet for the other ship to keep attacking it, even if it's not taunting, and even when they can go around. So Sunfac gains 30% turn meter from a buffed enemy attacking, so he goes ahead of the other ship and will now stun Houndstooth, which cannot be resisted. It can be evaded, so if that happens, then yeah, good fight. You can go write a 0-star review in the App Store. Now the Executor uses a group attack, which in all of my testing always goes to Sunfac because he is debuffed. If of course Sunfac isn't there or isn't debuffed, then they'll just go for whoever, and this is typically where other lineups have failed. So this group attack typically kills Sunfac, especially if he's gear 12 like mine, but even if he lives it doesn't change too much about the fight. He'll just take an extra hit at some point, but I haven't in my testing encountered a case where him living made a substantial difference. Now Xanadu Blood is out in the open right now, so you can do a big hit with Silencer and then pass a turn with the Shuttle's first special to finish him off with a basic. You call in Biggs to target the Razorcrest, that's really important, so that you then get the target lock on the Razorcrest, and when you then do Biggs special, you call someone to assist, which is sometimes the Silencer, though in my testing not too often, but if he does get called then you can even land a stun, which is nice, but not required. So in my testing then the Executor will call in a reinforcement, and usually that's IG 2000. But I also had cases where Slave 1 was called in. Both cases can be won, but this is where using the right tools from your reinforcements comes in to ensure that you do win. And I messed this up quite a bit, so there's been some trial and error to come to the right kind of decisions. So whichever reinforcement is called in by them, it gets its turn meter pushed back by the Shuttle on your side, but they do likely still go for Biggs. And whatever ability they use doesn't change the outcome here really. Now Biggs being there and taunting does make a really big difference. In my early testing I didn't bring Biggs, and IG 2000 would come in and stun the Silencer, which was an instant game over. Now the Silencer can be used to basic that reinforcement that just came in. And you could also use a special, but you're not going to crit, so it doesn't matter a whole lot. I think I typically just did the special to check how much damage that was going to do. And then the Houndstooth will finally taunt. Now you use the second special with the Shuttle on itself to give turn meter to the rest of the team. The Silencer can now do a special on Houndstooth to make a bit of progress for later on. The Finalizer then calls the Silencer to assist with a basic, and the Executor goes and heals their ships. And typically your Biggs gets killed at this point. Now because it's not a 7-star Executor, the heal isn't too big, and it also doesn't make something like Slave 1 taunt again, which could change the way the fight works. So another reason why this works well at 5 stars. Now you ability block Houndstooth with the Shuttle, and you basic or special on the Houndstooth with Silencer. And now comes the big choice of the second reinforcement. If there is Breach on your side, then Cassian is not going to do too much, because whatever buffs you dispel from Houndstooth, he's just going to retaunt, and it doesn't allow you to snipe anything out. when you do want to call in Cassian is when the silencer has been marked by Razorcrest, because that could actually get you in trouble, as silencer will 100% get targeted out. So if he is marked, then you need to call in Cassian to cleanse the silencer, or you lose. Now more likely is that you call in Ebon Hawk, that was the case in most of my testing, to counteract their evasion up that they get from you calling in a reinforcement, and you put evasion down. So they're basically back to the 2% evasion chance, the 2% dodge chance that's typically there. And then with Ebon Hawk, you can put buff immunity on Houndstooth with the last special. You can now use Shuttle's second special again on itself to also feed Turn Meter to Ebon Hawk, and then you focus down Houndstooth with more attacks. And remember that Ebon Hawk's basics can feed Turn Meter to your teammates. So if Slave 1 comes in next, which is typically the case for me, but sometimes it could be IG now, then you ability block it with the Shuttle, and you dispel its 500 buffs if it's Slave 1, which is quite handy because it really speeds up the fight a lot. Now it's a matter of killing the remaining ships with ridiculously big hits from the silencer. You can call in some remaining reinforcements to help here. So it does look great when things work, but let's take a look at when things don't work. And this is really where I could use some help in figuring out some of these limitations. Now the first limitation is that your Shuttle needs to be faster than the Razorcrest. And the reason is that if you're not, the Razorcrest can use a special and debuff anyone with it. Now the Executor will then follow up and probably kill that ship. If it's not Sunfac, that's a loss. So how difficult is it to outspeed Razorcrest? Well, if you have Supreme Leader Kylo unlocked and you have 5 mods on the 3 Relict and Zetat pilots, then your Shuttle will be somewhere around 182 speed after its 40 speed unique. You can then further boost this through 6 mods on all the pilots and adding more Relic levels, which I wouldn't specifically recommend for now. Now the Razorcrest on the other hand, with full 6 mods and Zetas on a Relic 5 Beskar Mando, is already a bit faster than your Shuttle. So unless, as mentioned, you have Zetas and 6 mods on all of your pilots. Now it's possible to stay ahead here, but it's pretty expensive for such a specific counter, and I have not been able to figure out anything else to make this work, as the ships just don't exist. I would love if there was some kind of first order tank that you could run that could fulfill a similar role, but it's just not there. Now, let alone you would also need a ship with a high enough starting speed, which can be pretty tricky. Now Vader could be used here instead of the Shuttle to ability block Razorcrest, as Vader's faster in any case, and then your Finalizer would still be fast enough with just plus 15 speed, but without being able to pass a turn to the silencer, you could not kill off Xanadu Blood and then you lose. So if you have any better ideas here to figure it out, I'm happy to hear it. I honestly can't figure it out. Now the second limitation is that if Sunfac goes after Xanadu Blood, he should not crit on the Houndstooth while stunning. Because when you do crit, which has a 23.46% chance, regardless of your gear level, so this never changes on the ship, it makes Xanadu Blood stealth again, which means you can't kill it. So this is for me actually the main cause of losses now. I've figured out all the other issues against the lower star lineups, but this is the one that will sometimes just lead to a loss, which is pretty frustrating. Now given this lineup, I don't think there's anything that can be done here with like ships out there, etc. So it might just be a showstopper for the fleet. The third limitation is of course that their Executor can only be 5 stars at most. If not, then their capital ship just does a group attack on any ship on your side, and then you're back to losing in the opener in many cases. Now I've tried to look into every ship, but I just don't see a way to ensure that you can prevent their houndstooth from taunting, while keeping both your silencer and shuttle alive and in good shape. Now maybe someone else can make it work. I wish you all the best in trying, and I hope this video was helpful given its limitations. I'll show you some of the other things that I tried that didn't work out either to save you some of the headache there, such as killing the hound's tooth first. Not ability blocking Razorcrest. We're calling in the Special Forces TIE Pilot for the assist, but without evasion down to counteract the evasion up, and thus getting dodged. So thanks for watching, I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you all again soon for more videos.